The NHL Lockout, 2004-2005, by Nicholas Evans. The story leading to the lockout. On September 16, 2004, the National Hockey League became the first professional sports league to lose an entire season due to a work stoppage. A total of 1,230 games were not played, with the lockout lasting 310 days. Many of the reasons for the 2004 lockout seem to stem back to the league's salary negotiations from 1992 to 1995, which revolved around player salary caps, luxury taxes, and revenue sharing. Many small lockouts occurred during these years, and as a result, the league could only agree upon new contract terms for rookie players and new league members. As Stoudemire mentions in his labor reviews, the lockout ended in mid-January 1995, barely saving the season, which was cut from 84 to 48 regular season games. As a result, the owners dropped the payroll tax idea, but achieved a salary cap for rookies under the age of 25, who were limited to an $850,000 salary in 1995, with the cap raising annually to $1,075,000 in 2000. This led to team owners spending more money on high-end contracts with agents and on individual good players. Again, as Stoudemire states, this regress would eventually lead to the league's insistence on salary caps applicable to all players, a turn of events that became a major cause of the 2004-2005 lockout. Reasons to lock out 2004. The National Hockey League hired Arthur Lovett to do an independent study of the league's finances. He conducted that during the 2002-2003 season, the NHL lost $273 million, with only 11 of the 30 teams showing profit. Once again, this information led the league into talks about salary caps for all players. Here's how one of the players reacted to the new set of negotiations. Bottom line, if they want a hard cap, we'll sit out the rest of our lives. Maple Leafs defenseman and NHLPA rep Brian McCabe. From 1993 to 1995, NHL players' salaries almost tripled. The revenues were not keeping up with the salary increase, and the league claimed to lose $1.8 billion during this time. In a sense, the owners had no one to blame but themselves. No one had forced them to pay these high salaries. The league was determined not to go broke and wanted to cut the players' salaries by 20%, putting the cost of the players somewhere around 50% of the total team's revenues. There were many small issues that also led to this lockout, but the underlying main concern was the league's desire for cost certainty, provided by a maximum team salary cap linked to the league's revenues. Where do we go from here? The terms that needed to be defined: higher player fines for misbehavior, reducing the schedule of games, minimum salaries, playoff bonuses for players, free agency, revenue sharing, and league salary caps. But, as Stoudemire mentioned in his report, what the negotiations boiled down to was that the league insisted that it get a salary cap, while the union was equally adamant that it wanted salaries based on the market conditions and would never agree to cap payrolls. In December 2004, the union offered to cut wages by 24% and drop the amount of the payroll in which the luxury tax would be levied to $45 million. Many people in the NHL felt this was a good deal, but the league was still insisting on full salary caps, and the lockout continued. The next offer that was placed on the table was in February. It called for a $42.5 million cap, but the union was looking for a $49 million cap, so again, no negotiations were reached. By this time, the media and the public were concerned that next year's hockey season might be in jeopardy. A gag order had been released, and the negotiations continued until the summer of 2005. With no agreement reached, it looked like next season might not begin, and that's just what happened. The NHL became the first team to lock out an entire season. The final lockout deal. On July 13th, 2005, the NHL and the NHLPA reached a settlement on a 6-year collective bargaining agreement. The centerpiece of the nearly 600-page agreement is a team payroll cap of $39 million for 2005-2006, with player compensation limited to 54% of league revenues. The cap in which they agreed upon is much lower than the offer in both of the previous year's proposed settlement, but the NHL and the NHLPA could finally come to terms and end the lockout. They had agreed that the salary cap can increase as league revenues increase for that given season. This made the players happy and relieved that they could now somewhat ensure that they would have a chance to make more money within different seasons. The minimum payroll for any team was set at $21 million, with a 54% limit on salary revenues. If the revenues exceeded 54%, then the money would go to an NHL account. If the revenues were under 54%, then the money would be paid to the players. The players did get their salaries cut by 24%, but they were now able to participate in free agent picks and compete in Olympic Games during playoff seasons. Who wins the game? In the end, it seemed like the owners got the better deal. They were able to get salary caps, rookie caps, a 24% decrease in players' salaries, and profit sharing. No player could take up more than 20% of the team's total revenue, so players became limited to around $8 million per season. The players would have gotten a better deal if they would have accepted the terms offered in December or February, but the union was willing to hold out in search of a better deal. These terms did help the league even out the talent on lower revenue teams. They could now bid on better players and get a chance to increase their team's revenues. This was a right formerly reserved for wealthy teams only. The NHL was now following an agreement that resembled a negotiation the MLB made just a few years previous. Forgotten fans. The event proved to be a huge blow for the league. While hockey did return for the 2005-2006 season, the NHL's image was heavily damaged. These damages were especially brutal in the United States as the league lost much of its credibility as well as its television deal with ESPN. The game also changed. You could no longer end the game with a tie. A shootout would take place instead. The goalies were required to wear smaller pads, making them less effective in the goal zone, and in thought, making the game more exciting. The center line offsides pass was removed. This would allow longer cross-ice passes with the hopes of higher scoring games. They also agreed to enforce smaller level penalties more frequently. This would lead to more power plays and a much more exciting game. The league was losing money due to poor television ratings, high salaries, and owners' issues. Fans were left to wonder if the league will return. The 2005-2006 season did not see a revenue spike. Most fans were still worried that the season might come to an abrupt end. In the next few years, revenues slowly increased, but a lot of work is still needed to reinforce the stability of the league to their fans. The average NHL team is worth much more today than it was 10 years ago. An average team is worth $413 million today, and even franchises that were once thought to be in jeopardy have grown in size.